Very good evening, everyone. I'm Shilpa and I welcome you all to the Shiksha webinar on the topic of the last 7 days plan for JEE Advance. This is a national level engineering entrance examination and is said to be one of the toughest exams. We need to have a strategy and aim in order to score well and qualify. Today, we have an expert who is a popular face among students, especially those who are preparing or appearing for JEE exam. I welcome you, Anup Gupta. You are the founder of Math on Go.
Thank you, Shilpa. Thanks for a good, warm welcome. And I hope that all the students who are watching or joining this webinar, they really go on and crack JEE Advance and get to their dream IITs, which they have been working so hard for the last 2.5 or 2 years.
For sure, after your guidance, they will. And to the students, feel free to send your questions to me through Q&A box or in the chat box. I shall try to get all your queries answered by our expert for the session after a quick discussion with him. So coming back to you, Anup sir, we are just a week far from the JEE Advance exam. I remember as a student, I used to study a lot, but still I always felt that I'm partially prepared. But later
Yeah,
I realized it's the same story of all students appearing
true,
for any exam.
true.
But last minute guidance from my mentor or with anybody, a mentor always helped me. But Anup sir, do you also get the similar queries from the students and how do you guide them at this moment?
Hey, let's see. It's very obvious that, as you rightly mentioned, be it any exam, not just IIT or anything, any competitive exam is there, then you will always feel the pressure in the last 7 or 10 days, right? And then that is the time where a lot of ranks are actually, it's a rank breaker deal, right? Where a lot of good students under the pressure, anxiety, nervousness, they mess up their entire schedule in the last 10 odd days and they do not get their deserving rank. Right, so it is very important. And yes, as you also asked that, do we get the same kind of queries at our own platform? Yes, definitely. That's in fact in the last, what to do in the last 10 days is something which everybody wants to know, because what happens at this point in time is that, the preparation phase is over, right? Now you cannot ask somebody to do new topics. So this is a very good advice to the students that if you're looking to do something new at this point in time, you should immediately stop. In the last 10 days, the first primary thing is to do is that you should just focus on what you have done, just revise them and keep on revising that and that only, right? So stop doing anything new, sitting in any new sessions at this point in time, because that is going to kill your rank. That's what I can say in a very harsh tone. Apart from this, what is the other very, very important step that students should do at this point in time is set up their biological cycle. Right. So the paper is going to, it's, IIT JEE Mains and IIT JEE Advanced. They are two different exams and very different, not just because of the concept knowledge that is being checked at these exams, but because of a time frame that is also involved in these two papers. JEE Mains is just a 3-hour exam, right? Here you have 3-hour exams split into two, that is two exams of 3 hours, and then you have an in-between break of 2.5 hours. So that means you have a paper for almost a duration of 9 hours, right? And that requires a lot of stamina, first of all, right? Also, to note that the first paper of JEE Advanced starts at 9. That means you have to reach the center by 8:15 or 8 o'clock, right? So that means you'll be, starting from your home somewhere around 7:30. That means you should be starting your day early. And a lot of students have a habit that they read till late in the night, and they have a biological cycle that they will get up at 8 or 9 or maybe 10 in the morning, which is one of the single key reasons in my 12 or 13 years of pure professional teaching experience. This messes up their score because they are not active from 9 to 12, which is required for paper one. So the first thing that any student at this point in time, if they are studying late till night, they should immediately stop it, go to bed early, get up early. They should be the mantra, right? Also, if you're studying in the last, 10 odd days, try to make sure that whenever you're studying also, you study in the same time frame as your exam is going to happen. So for example, 9 to 12, irrespective whether you write the mock test or not, your window for studying should always have sessions from 9 to 12 and 2:30 to 5:30, so that your body is accustomed to that scenario where you will be sitting on the final day. Also, the students have to come out of their comfort zone, that they should not lie down, study on bed. They should have a proper posture set on table, because that these are very tiny details which actually kill your score at the final day. So avoid these mistakes to get a very, very good rank. Because see, the point is not that how well you know, right? The point is you know it, then you have to apply it in the paper. So the second step is more important during the last 10 odd days, and that is what you should all work on. That is something which we have been advising students for the last more than a decade, that set up your biological cycle. In the biological cycle, also add good eating habits, because they help you in setting up a right biological cycle. So make sure that you do not have a heavy breakfast or a heavy afternoon meal, so that you will start feeling sleepy or drowsy. Avoid that, make a schedule, and then just keep on working the way you have been, and just keep on revising what you have done up till now. So that's the main advice that as a teacher, I think this will be a very common advice that you will hear from each and every teacher, but the importance of it cannot be highlighted more, that it is going to be the rank producing thing that you will do in the last 10 days.
Right, sir. The mantra I have noted down, we have said that how well you know is not important, rather how you can apply that knowledge is more
True,
important, right? You
true,
also talked about biological cycle, maintaining the same time frame like of the examination hall, and eating light. Okay.
true.
So even I can see one comment of the Gaurav in the chat box. He's talking
Mm-hmm.
about my biological cycle has been affected.
True,
Like all of the sudden, I remember that when we create a timetable and religiously follow, like since the childhood we are doing it, then we
true,
achieve the target like we are
true.
aiming for. So how our timetable should look like in the last 7 days?
Okay, so ideally, it should not be that you have to pressurize yourself to study 15 hours a day, right? There is a tendency among students that if they will study more, they will get a better rank. And at any competitive exam, it's not just about IIT JEE, at any competitive exam, the quality matters, not the quantity, right? So do not pressurize yourself too much at this point in time, because there have been so many occasions that students who have tried to work too hard have, a side effect that they might have got ill, right? And getting ill at this point in time is again something which you do not want to have. So study only that much which you can actually do. Set up a time frame where you can actually follow it. And the other mantra which I always keep telling my student is be happy at this point in time. Stop comparing, stop looking around your marks, what they are coming in the marks. Be happy, right? You should be happy that you have done the hard work for the last 2 years of your life. Now it's just the time of application. Understand this fact that you cannot study something in the last 10 odd days, and that too at a level of JEE Advanced, right? So it is only important that you should enjoy and be confident of what you have done. So in the last 10 days, generally students lose their confidence, even the good ones, right? And that is where they, if let's say they were scoring X marks, they will now score X minus 20, and minus 20 at JEE Advanced level is like you just are out of your dream IIT. So make sure that you are happy, confident, study, even if you study for 9 to 10 hours. And when I say study, rather than study, you should replace it by revision at this point in time. Do revision for 10 hours a day. That will be suffice. That's it. Do not stress yourself at this point in time.
Okay, so sir, you guided us to just be happy and be motivated. So I have a follow-up question on the guidance you have given.
Yeah.
Rahul Das, Shivansh, and one more candidate has a similar question. They want to ask you how to remain confident and happy during exam. It's very difficult. Please.
True. True. So see, this is where some sort of maturity is required at this point in time, though we all are students and we will always remain students, but the maturity to understand that, first of all, you're targeting a JEE Advanced kind of an examination where it is not that you know a concept, then you will be able to solve a question. You must have practiced it thoroughly to be able to solve that in the examination. So if you have not done that, do not be worried about the score that you might have got from that particular topic or a chapter. You are not going to. So assume from a perspective that, let's say you have done supposedly 50 to 70% of the syllabus with respect to JEE Advanced. So immediately your target should be that can I score something around 30 to 35% of the marks, right? You will, if you have done 50% of the syllabus, that does not mean that you will get 50% of the marks. That has to be very clear in your mind, right? It is JEE Advanced. Had it been JEE Mains, it could have been possible, but at JEE Advanced, it's a very tricky situation. So that is where also the link up comes in, that when we say that do not do any new thing, comes from this particular point only, that just focus on what you know and just work on it, because JEE Advanced will ask you tough questions. So if you are not having a depth of knowledge on that particular concept, you will not be able to solve it. So target is not to get 100% of what you know at your point. It is also equally important that how much I have done, understand with exam code, which I call that how much you can actually score, set up a target of at least 10 to 20% less than it. You will automatically start feeling very light, right? A lot of burden will be taken off your shoulders. Sometimes students are unnecessarily burdened that, they have to pay back to their parents. Their parents have invested so much money into them, right? And there's a lot of burden, but that burden is not going to bring the marks. Let me be very honest, right? In fact, the burden will have only one impact, that is, it is going to bring your score down, not up, right? So make sure that you understand where you stand and play around it. Because if you just understand the situation, it is something which is very similar to a T20 game, right? So let's say if you know the last over is left and 10 over, 10 maybe runs are to be required. You do not just go by the best bowler you have in the team. You also see that who is going to take the strike on the other end. If he is not good against the spinner, you might bowl the over by a spinner, right? The same situation has to be tackled here by the students. Play to their forte, understand where you stand, and just go and crack the code.
Okay, your guidance will certainly help. So, we are just flooded with several questions. So, I'll take up one question. We just sometimes back we talked about we have the 2 hours of break between the two papers.
Right.
So,
Right.
Srishti and the Upal has a similar question. They want to know what they can do in between
True.
that break. Yeah.
So 2.5 hours is a very big time frame between two examinations. So there are two, three key important things that you all should make sure that you should do in that time frame. First of all, do not discuss paper one with anybody between those 2.5 hours. This is a very general tendency that once you go to a center, let's say you find one of your common friends, someone who you know or some acquaintance, and after the paper one, you might start discussing how was your paper, whether you were able to solve this question or not. Do not do this error. This is the biggest blunder that you can do, because this is going to have a negative impact on your paper two, the confidence that you will go on with paper two. Do not talk to anyone. Even if somebody tries to force you in a discussion, just quit the discussion, come out of it. Second important thing, that if still it is 2.5 hours duration, do not try to study at that point in time, right? As I have seen some students taking their books along with in those 2.5 hours, nothing is going to happen. You are not going to forget anything in this particular moment, believe me. In fact, it is the other way around. During the exams, we tend to remember the max unless until we have a blackout situation. So do not study at all. And the third most important key point is you have to relax yourself. So you have exhausted yourself, not just for 3 hours. Remember, again, be practical here, that you might have started your day 6 in the morning. So you have been up from 6 till 12. So 6 hours have already gone. So you have exhausted yourself for 6 hours. That means your energy is out. You are out of your energy. For paper two to be good, you require energy. So rather for that, those 2.5 hours, try some light snack, maybe some idli, nothing, something which is very too much oily, something which gives you drowsy feeling, and just relax. In fact, it is better, since it is 2.5 hour exam, try to sleep for 1 hour. Take a quick nap. It gives you the entire energy which is required, builds the stamina for the paper two.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Uh, we all have given exams, and
Right.
we all have noticed that when we sit in an exam hall, there is a sense of uneasiness that
True.
most of the students feel. Even I have felt it. uh, if we talk about the JEE Advanced, it has two phases overall, so it takes a
Yeah.
toll on physical as well as the mental aspects of the candidate. So
True.
Anup, any guidance on how we can work on both factors even in the last week, and any paper attempting strategy for that?
True. So since we still have 7 or 10 odd days left, I would still recommend that students can still write at least one mock test, right? Not with the perspective of score, just to make sure to understand how to manage their time. So there would definitely be occasions in the paper that you will, in a strike, right? Let's say you are not able to solve 3 or 4 questions in a go, right? Be ready for it, that it is going to happen, right? Especially in an advanced scenario, you might go on that you have read first, in the first 20 minutes is sort of which we call as a decider moment, right? You go on for the first 20 odd minutes and you're not able to solve in a single question, right? And that is something which will just take all the confidence away in the examination. So try to pick those subjects. Generally we pick chemistry for that matter, that in quick span of time we are able to get some marks, which gives us confidence that yes, at least we are scoring this much marks. So whichever is your favorite topic which you are super confident about, pick that topic, make sure that you get some marks in first or 20 odd minutes, because that sets the tone for the next 2.5 hours. Because let's say if you are not able to secure any marks in the first 30 odd minutes, right? You just see that you have just scored 4 marks. Let's say one question, let's say. Whatever you do, how confident you might be for the remaining 2 subjects, you will never be able to perform under your potential, because your confidence has been taken away by the exam. So make sure you stick to the basics. That is, figure out an easy topic to kill first of all. Start filtration in the paper, right? Do not be egoist with a question. So for a good student, ego is a very big problem, right? So I might have studied very well for maths, right? And I have an ego with maths that I would secure the maximum marks in maths. Don't go by that psychology. It is going to kill you in the exam, right? It might be that math comes out to be the toughest of all, which has been the trend right now. So make sure the job in the examination hall is to be a good businessman. Very, very simple. So what does a good businessman do? They look for opportunities, crack them, and make it big. So there would definitely be questions which will be easy, moderate, and tough, right? Your target is to just figure out easy and moderate questions which you can do. It is again very subjective, that something which might be easy might be tough for you, easy for me. But there are some certain things which you know for sure that I can solve this. The target is that you spend maximum of your time, that is 3 hours, to those questions which you can actually solve. Do not worry about the questions which you cannot solve. This is what makes the rank. If you do this, you will never feel distracted in the exam. Distraction comes in when you start feeling disappointed in the exam. When you're not scoring, then you will start thinking, "Arey, yaar, paper mein," you will start thinking, "My parents' money is getting wasted." Then you will start looking around, "Yaar, wo to, iska to साथ वाले का paper solve हो रहा है, but I am not able to solve." All those things start coming in. So make it a game for you in the exam, right? So all of us have played Angry Bird, right? The level keeps on increasing after hour. A target should be very similar to that to do in the exam. Figure out easy questions, then shift to your gear to moderate question, and maybe try some tough question at the end of the exam. So this is how you do it. Make it a game for you, challenge for you. I don't think you can anyway get distracted in the examination.
Right. So I'll just share a personal thing here. Yesterday, I was having a word with one of the topper student of
Right,
IIT, and I asked her how did she manage to get a good rank. She
right,
said that don't study for long hours, and I was
right,
surprised. She
right.
said that rather you should opt for a smart study plan at this point.
True,
So, sir,
true.
being a mentor, what could be the smart study plan according to you at this crucial stage?
See, smart study is nothing. Even if you talk to topper or maybe a rank holder who has scored something around 3,000, right? The strategy is very simple, that you should not be bogged down at this point in time, right? So, for example, you must have seen a lot of students that all the study resources are there on their table, right? That's the worst way of preparing, right? Because you are automatically confused. At this point in time, the smart study funda is very simple, that get up in the morning, make a schedule that what you are going to do at this point in time for this day at least. Break that into maybe 2 hour sessions, not more than 2 hours. You don't require a 4 hour sitting or a 5 hour sitting. Don't worry. Just make it 2 hour and just do the things that you have planned to do. That is what I started off the session with, that nothing new. So for example, you are, let's say, revising a chapter called electrostats. And then you suddenly out of the blue, you feel that let's look around on the web. Let's look for some good questions, right? This is not called smart study. You have worked already on electrostats. The way you have worked, made your notes, good question that you have already done, just revise them. That you will be able to cover that in that stipulated 2 hours only if you do what you have already done, which will give you confidence and which will help you follow the entire schedule for the entire day. But if you will just start exploring things, the entire schedule will go for a toss, right? So make sure that you study for the duration where you feel again happy and you are focused. So if it is a 1 hour, 1.5 hour, which gives you focus and concentrated study, do that 1.5 hour only. Do not push yourself unnecessary for 3 hours at this point in time.
Okay, absolutely right, sir. And here, the next I'll take a few questions the students wants to ask you. Ruta wants to ask you, are there any specific points to be considered for paper 2 and any suggestion for subjects to be focused on overall?
Okay, so before paper 2 also, let me make it clear to all the aspirants here is that JEE Advance is notorious for changing the patterns every year, right? So for JEE means the paper pattern is told to you in advance, right? So you don't have to actually go and read the instructions. Whereas for JEE Advanced, we do not know what is the pattern going to be. Right. So for example, last year, maybe 4 type of questions were asked for different. Last year, 3 different kind of questions were being asked. Though, and we can have a different set of marking schemes also. For the last 2-3 years, we have been seeing that they've been consistently asking the paper for 360 marks. But this could drastically change to 540 this year. So first thing, whether it is paper 1 or paper 2, in fact, in paper 1, give sufficient time to read instructions. Do not start the paper before reading the instructions. Also note what is the marking scheme with each kind of pattern, right? So for example, there is a paragraph question, right? So the last year when the paragraph questions were introduced, a new sort of paragraph, numerical based paragraph questions were introduced at JEE Advanced, they tend to be a mix of both. Some are very easy, some are very difficult, right? But if you read that paragraph once, and if you are able to crack the code of that paragraph, you'll be able to solve 2 questions with the help of just one question stem, which gives you leverage, right? So that is what you have to start thinking, analyzing in terms of what are the different kind of questions that come in the examination. So always matrix match, paragraph, numerical or integer based have been the easier ones at JEE Advanced. So if you are trying to look and score better, make sure you do not start with multiple correct type questions in the beginning, because that generally tends to disappoint students in the front. In fact, that should be the last option of every subject that you should do. So read the instructions, plan your type of questions accordingly, which you have practiced, which you know that you are confident about. That is what you have to do. Do not start in a serial order. You are free to move around, go to any question from the question palette on the window screen, move around with the paper for not more than 1 minute. I've seen some students just keep on wasting 5 minutes scrolling the paper. Don't do that. Stick to a subject, figure out a subject. For that particular subject, skim the question for 1 minute. This will give you an idea where actually I can attack. Do not go by serial order. So this strategy can be applied for paper 1. And believe me, guys, if you apply this strategy in paper 2, it will be much more productive, because by paper 2, a lot of students have already given up, right? The stamina has gone up for those who are still writing the examination. If you go by the statistics, you will be surprised that every year, 2.5 lakh students, are allowed to take the JEE Advance. Last year also only 1.6 lakh people appeared. This year also 1.6 have registered. We understand that appear will be much less than this, right? And people who are appearing for paper 2 is even drastically less, right? So the competition is not there at all. If you notice that way, the competition is just with you, that can you sustain for that paper 2, and you can do smart work in that paper 2 framework. The smart work is nothing but just figure out where are those easy or moderate questions lying for you. Just do them.
Okay, so what I have understood, sir, smart work is like acting smartly. Our
Yeah,
reflexes should be active, right? So
true,
in both the papers, we don't need to make, the haste makes waste. We do say that
true,
here. So we don't need to do that. So we need to read instructions carefully, understand the, the marking scheme and scheme the questions,
true,
then plan the answering. This is what you said, sir. Okay,
true.
so the next up, I'll take another question. Opal Ingle wants to ask you, how many previous year paper should they solve at this time?
See, ideally, you should have done this. This step should have been done at this point in time. Right now, you should not be doing anything new, as I've already said. So avoid doing them. If you still have not done the last 3 also, last 3 years you can do, but avoid doing anything new at this point in time.
Uh, so here I want to ask you, sir. I curiously actually want to ask you is that as a student, primarily our aim is to clear JEE exam, but on the
Right,
other side, we always dream to get a rank or high percentile. Which
right.
one is more important to you?
See, that depends on a lot of things, right? So, a lot of students have craziness about those single digit rank, double digit rank, or a triple digit rank, right? Uh, as a student, it will always be fancied, right? I cannot say that it is wrong to make a target of a single digit. It's very good that you can make that kind of a target, because that pulls you up and always motivates you to study hard. But in the long run, you might be knowing that these things doesn't matter at all, right? This absolutely doesn't matter whether you are a triple date or a single date holder 10 years down the line, right? So I think this is a process where student will automatically understand at a latest point in time, maturity will come in, that this was something which I should not have targeted in the first place. But there are some things in life which we understand only once we get to face them. That's that kind of a scenario. So ideally, no one should see any score, percentile, or rank for that matter. You should be happy with what you have got and try to obviously increase in the next whatever phase that you are at, right? But yeah, nothing bad to have a fancy of single date or a fascination about a particular rank or score.
Right, sir. Thank you for your guidance. So when we give any exam, we know that expert will be checking the paper and marking us. But when we practice PYQs and mock tests, that self-performing analysis, that become a task because yes, we do cheat sometimes. So
True.
how can we analyze our mocks performance, and also how can we create that proctor environment?
See, that is something which you have to do at your end in terms of the first thing that you mentioned, that we somewhere down the line we tend to cheat, right? Believe me, the students who are getting in the top 3,000, 5,000 ranks at JE, they don't do that activity, right? Generally, the people who are below this rank, they try to, and in fact, not 5,000, I would say 15,000, because they do understand that they are in the competition, right? They can actually go on and improve their rank. But at the same time, you have to understand that if you cheat, because see, JEE Advance again is an examination which is known for creating new questions every year, right? So what happens generally, which I've seen a lot of students doing this mistake, you have done previous years in these 2 years of preparation, but you will still take mock tests of PYQs only. Let's say you have already done 2021 previous year questions, your teacher has taught you. And as mock also, you are taking 2021 paper. It does not make sense at all. You obviously will get a score, inflated score, and your final score will be definitely less than what you will actually are getting in 2021, because for two reasons. First of all, obviously you know the question, right? But what students generally miss out is the shock element. In the examination hall, what kills the student is the shock of not able to think the first step, that how to solve this question, right? So whenever you are solving a mock, make sure first of all, even if you are, though I have already said that at this point in time mock should not be solved, but if you are solving mock, make sure that you solve mock, because the mock is not previous year. Previous year is a separate thing, mock is a separate thing. Take mocks, go on head with understanding how to read a question, how to try to solve a question when you do not know anything about it. That is what is JEE Advanced known for. It will definitely ask you mixed questions from mixed chapters in a single question, which is the biggest differentiation with JEE Mains at this point in time. So make sure at least have that frame of mind, openness in mind, that I will be ready for the shock element. That what again separates you from the crowd. That is what brings you in the real competition, right? So the part that you said that cheating has been done, nobody can do anything about it, right? If they are cheating, they are just teaching themselves. Most of the time you will find that they are cheating because they want to show the score to their parents in that mock, right? I think this question is not for the students. Rather, this question is meant for the parents, that they should be better mentor to their kids, right? They should be open that whatever the score comes in, they should be not just asking kitna score aaya, kitna percent aaya, rank kya aaya, how you felt in the exam. They should be asking them that how you could have improved your score by just 10 marks. Just tell me that. That is a question to the parents, not to the students. Students will always do this. We would have done the same in our situation if we had been at 80,000 rank. We'll have done the same thing.
Glad, sir, that you raised this point. It's quite relatable to all of us.
Yeah.
Okay, and with this next up, I'll take up a question a student want to ask you. Sir, should we focus on the number of question attempted?
See, definitely it is important that how many questions you attempt. Though before I give an exact answer to this, make sure that you understand that in JEE Advanced there is a subject cutoff also, which is not there in JEE Mains. So for example, in JEE Mains, you can get a very high percentile or a good score by not doing any one of the subjects. So for example, you leave chemistry completely. You get 100 in physics, 100 in maths, you got 200, you got a 99 percentile. In advanced, you cannot do that step. There is sectional cutoff, subject cutoff. So make sure that at least that is first of all being adhered to, which is very low, by the way. You don't have to worry. It is just 8 marks per subject generally, if we took an average. So 8 marks is 2 questions. So make sure that at least that benchmark gets cleared before making sure that you score very high in one of the subjects. Now, other thing is that should you focus on the number of questions? Again, this is something which you have to maturely understand, that Number is nothing. You can't do anything with the number. So don't be in a hurry to increase the number of attempts, because it could also have a drastic impact of reducing your marks, because you could have done it wrong. So your score might drop towards the negative side of it. Solve the questions which at least I would say you are 70% sure of. If you are not less than 70% sure, do not mark that question. And that is also one of the key things that you should have learned from mocks. Always, every student, they just write the mocks, check the score, where they stand, and they move forward. This was a key learning from the mocks. So in the mocks, we tend to guess more often, right? In the real exam, we don't guess that much. We guess more in mocks. See to it, what is the accuracy of your guess in the mocks? So if it is going upward of 75%, that means your guess is not guess, it is educational guess. It is just that you're low in confidence, which gives you the feeling that you are doing it wrong, but actually you know what is intended to be done. So understand your own self better with the help of past mocks that you have given. Forget about score. Think about how you manage your time in the exam, what you did in the first 1 hour. Is there a pattern with me? I know that after 1.5 hours, I start feeling drowsy, I lose my confidence. What I would do after 1.5 hours in the exam so that I can get back into the mode. That is something which you have to see and find a pattern, because this is individualistic. Every student has a different pattern, right? So those patterns can be found once you delve into your mocks, the previous mocks that you have done.
Okay. Answer with this, I'll take up one of the commonly asked question, and even the students are
Yeah.
asking in the Q&A box. Any guidance for attempting multi-correct answer?
See,
Multiple.
multi-correct is something which is very, very tricky. Honestly speaking, sometimes in multi-correct, in fact, for objective type questions, you can read the question thoroughly, and rather than solving the question, if you're, let's say, for example, when a very tough questions come, this has been the trend at JEE Advance, especially for multiple correct, that questions give you hint that how to start the question, right? So do not just read the question and start solving, that you will now check every option properly. In fact, do the other way around. Start eliminating options. So read the somewhere down the line, and this happens more in calculus, right? If I talk about specifically maths it's a very common pattern that a calculus question will come in. You are not able to understand where to start. Read the 4 options. It will automatically give you that this is the direction going to be for solving the question. Also, if you are not very sure of any of the options in multiple correct, let's say you have figured out one option is correct, mark it. Do not mark any other option if you are not sure of, because they are partial marking, right? You will definitely get partial marking if one out of three is correct. But if one of them is wrong, you will directly get a -1. So make sure that only mark the options which you are sure of. And I would rather advise solve the multiple correct in every subject at the end. It should be our last type that you should attend, because every question, inherently we are not ready for multiple choice, majority of the students, because we generally practice single correct more often because of JEE mains pattern and everything. So our body and mind is intrinsically not very ready, and the shock element for multiple choice is always higher, on the higher side. And JEE Advanced have obviously changed the trend that they started asking 40% of the paper on multiple correct, right? So, but understand 60% of the marks are still left for the other kind of questions. And at 60% marks, even if you got 50% out of it, you're sitting at IT Delhi, right? So forget about multiple choice. This is just a high focus on what you can actually solve.
Okay. And so this is a question many students are asking. They are asking about what could be the minimum rank to get into any of the IIT?
Though I don't have a perfect answer to it, honestly speaking, because this can be checked at the JOSA website. It's very available readily, and maybe at Shiksha as well. But if you want to get into the old IIT, the top 7 IITs, you have to get something under 4,000 rank, because that gets over there itself. But yes, after 4,000, even let's say 5,000, you might get a good core branch at the new IITs. And yes, to get any branch at IIT, something around 10,000 rank is sufficient enough. 10 to 11,000 rank is sufficient enough. Though they say that there are 16,000, 15,000 seats, but generally people don't go at that kind of a rank. They prefer some better stream at a better private or a NIT at that point in time. But yes, to get into IITs, prefer to get something around 10,000, under 10,000.
So sir has been giving us guidance continuously. So I'll give you a breather here. So,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm sharing a link in the chat box. You students can have a look at it. And because it has all the written details related to JEE Advanced 2022. So you can have a look at it. We have also done the previous webinar related to JEE Advanced. Even you can just tap on the link and you can just fetch all the details. Okay, so sir, coming back to you. Here we have received a question from a candidate named Priya. She is asking, she has seen several interviews of the expert for JEE exam, and they have suggested sleeping early and taking sound sleep. But
Yeah.
it becomes a task before the exam. Any secret to have sound sleep?
No, sound sleep is something again which I said, be happy, right? You have to now start. See, you also know that when you have prepared for any competitive exam, you know where you stand. You know, the deviation is always around 10% or up or 10% or 20% up and down. It cannot be that you are right now at 100 marks out of 360 and on the final day you will get a 350 marks. That is not possible, right? So that maturity has to come in. If you start accepting it, believe me, it will help you tremendously by, increasing your score by 20 odd marks on the final day, that I have done what I wanted to do. I would be happy with whatever score I get. At least I tried my level best, right? Because in the last 10 odd days, we cannot do much. That is something which you have to understand. And we will be happy with whatever score, and we'll rather not just happy, we'll be proud of our score. Even if we are not able to qualify, we'll be proud of our score that we didn't give up. In fact, I would be much more happy, and I would pat to all those students that who strictly actually come out of the examination by giving both the papers. A lot of students just give the paper one, they come back, right? So if you have given both the papers, then itself is an achievement that you've been able to sit in a hypertensive situation for 9 hours. Believe me, it is preparing you for a lifelong battle. So you never know. A lot of times we feel that our life is gone if we are not able to get into IITs. There are much bigger hurdles in life which you will be facing in the long run. It is just one tiny mini step which is right now in acting as an obstacle. If you are able to clear it, it will give you a good start in the career. If you are not able to, does not change anything. It's just that you might have to work even harder. That's it.
Uh, so teachers always say that just try to revise the important topics at this particular time that we
Yeah.
are going through, that 7 days we are just far away from the JEE Advance. As it's, it's practically impossible to go through the whole syllabus. So as a JEE guru, we would like to have your guidance on how to score maximum, and if you could just guide us on the important topics as well.
So something which we have already done on our YouTube channel as well and everywhere, that there are some key topics which generally are repetitively asked in the exam, right? Every exam has something which they ask more often. So in your revision schedule for the last 7 or 10 days, make sure that you make your schedules according to those blocks, right? So for example, that block is very, for example, if we talk about in physics, so electromagnetism is a very common sort of packet that is being asked. So when you are revising, make sure that you give importance to that. In maths, calculus is something which is asked, 33% of the paper is calculus only. So you know that this block has to be worked much harder than, revising trigonometry at this point in time. Let's say if we talk about, though this is difficult to do in, chemistry especially, because chemistry is already divided in 3 equal parts, organic, inorganic, and physical, right? But in physical also, you can actually focus on those topics which and are also asked in the paper. So for example, ionic equilibrium. Like ionic equilibrium is a difficult topic. If a question comes tough, generally people are not well prepared. So at this point in time, you should not spend your time in revising ionic equilibrium to a great extent. Rather, put it on the other part of the physical chemistry where you can actually go and score, right? And this is where, if you have still not done, take the analysis from anywhere and check the analysis that what sort of chapters are more oftenly asked, and make your revision schedule in the descending order.
Thank you, sir. And with this, I'll take up another question. And the question has been asked by Priya. He's asking that what is the role of rough work while attempting a paper? Even I'm attempting some previous year question paper, should I do the rough work in different paper?
Okay, so the rough work is something where it is important, no doubt about it, because sometimes we scribble here and there, right? So do not do scribbling. There are two rules of working on rough sheets. First is never carry over, right? So if you are solving a question and you read the bottom, You already knew that the space you are starting the question from the bottom of the page. Don't do that. Start the question from a fresh page where you do not have to carry on figures, because the chances of doing silly errors will go very high. Second thing is that let's say you have attempted a question in the first go. Now you are not able to solve it. You are again solving it. So what as a student we generally do is we go back to the rough sheet where we have solved those questions. Don't do that. Start afresh. Because if you start with the same mindset that you have done earlier, you will still end up with the same steps that you have done earlier. You will not be able to solve it further. Right? So start with a fresh frame of mind. Start it from a fresh page. That's the only thing that you have to do.
Okay, so sir, quickly we'll take a few more questions. So one student is asking, if PNC and probability question takes around 5 to 10 minutes, should that person give that much time to probability and PNC?
So time in JEE Advance is not ever a problem, right? So if you notice there are 19 or 20 odd questions per subject, and let's say 57 questions which came in 2021, you're given 3 hours for it. So if you divide it, it is actually average out and coming already of 3 per question, right? 3 minutes per question. And I'm expecting the student which is asking this question, they're not going to attempt all the 57 questions, right? So at JEE Advance, you already know that I might be solving only 70 or 60 odd percent of the paper, right? So if you just see that way, you already have 5 minutes per question. So that is where the first part comes into the picture, that you have to decide which question you are able to solve. The filtration is the key point in JEE Advance.
Okay, sir. And next up, we have a question from Sayyed, and he's asking what are the other colleges except JEE Advanced marks other than IITs? Because what if he doesn't get the rank under 10,000?
So there is ISR, as far as I remember, which takes admission. There is one college called Rajiv Gandhi Petroleum University, which takes admissions through IITs. These are the two prime colleges which take admissions on the JEE Advance ranks. But I think you guys will be much better in terms of, you can go on Shiksha and you can get results from there. I think there is IAST also which takes admission. But yeah, this is something which I guess you guys can handle better.
Yeah, moreover, I have shared a link in the chat box. You can just
Okay.
look at it and
Yeah.
you'll get all the details. Okay, so with this, I'll take up another question. Like we have the 3 subjects to target in 3 hours in each paper. How to divide time equally between all the subjects, first during the practice and second during the exam, because it feels very difficult to the other students.
See, that is again where mocks comes into picture, right? You must have done this, practice it at your end, that, for example, for physics, how much time you generally take. For example, as a teacher, you will find it very easy for us to say, yeah, chemistry, you can do it in 40 minutes. But it is not true for every student, right? So that is where you have to understand yourself that 40 minutes, why as a teacher we say 40 odd minutes, that whatever you are able to solve in round 1, you should just give 40 or 45 minutes to chemistry. You might be able to solve full, or you might be able to solve 50 to 70%. Doesn't matter. You should leave chemistry at that point in time. Because if you give more time, then you will not have ample time for the remaining 2 subjects. Similarly, physics, we say that you should spend 1 hour and then leave whatever is left out. And then give 1 hour to maths. And ideally, a student should try out, they should make sure that 20 minutes are left for the round 2. So round 1 is 2 hours, 40 minutes. Do whatever you can do. And last 20 minutes, decide wherever you think in which subject, which question, you can enhance your score.
Okay. So this question we are receiving repeatedly, and this question has been asked by Mitesh, and he's asking if I'll get 73 percentile and 31,000 rank, will there be any opportunity to get a seat in EWS category?
I have no idea about categories, honestly speaking. So it's better that they look around for websites which provide these data.
Okay, so just moving ahead, and when we just start going through our notes that we have prepared, for the 5-10 minutes, we feel very concentrated on it. But after that, we start traveling in a different world. So,
Right.
we just have to go through it again from the starting. So one should go through the notes from the last week revision, how we can just do it.
See, revision, if you are doing it should be first of all done orally. Most of the things have to be done in mind because our mind works at a much faster pace than what we can write on paper, right? So it is something like that. You read something that what you have done and think of it that what you have done in the solution of how you have written it, what your teacher has taught, everything should be done in mind, which will give you, so the same thing that you were earlier thinking of reading entire thing, because our eyes also take time to scan things, right? So if you just start remembering everything and do oral revision in mind, the task that you were supposed to do in 1 hour, you will be surprised that you will be able to do it in 20 minutes. So you'll automatically never get bored of revision, because revision takes time, right? That's what students feel. That's what makes it boring, right? But if you know that I will be able to do it in 15 or 20 odd minutes, or let's say if I'm having, dinner, in my mind, I can just revise. And that's what toppers generally do. So a lot of people say that they study very less. Actually, they don't study very less. They study very high in terms of making sure that they are always in the studying mode. So even if they are watching a football match, you will feel that they are fighting a football match, but they might be solving a question in mind, which has stuck in the mind from the morning. So that's what you should do. That's the only thing.
And next up, we have a question from Utkarsh, and he's asking how to apply logic in tricky mathematics question like the multi-concept questions.
And there is something, there is no magic wand that you can apply, especially to math questions, right? And the trend in the recent years have been that the math question has been really, really good. Not just at, advanced, but JEE mains have also started asking really good questions. So uh, I would rather say that sometimes reading the question in a slow and breaking the question into parts helps solving the question better. So just do not read the question like in a flash or a speedy way. If you're if you know that you know the concept of this question, break the question into parts. Right. So for example, if summation problem is there and you're not able to understand that what to do, write 2, 3 terms which are which will be formed in that summation. You'll get a better idea of how to solve that question.
Okay. And so with this, I'll take up another question. Divyansh has this question. Tips to clear minimum subject cutoff in mathematics JEE Advance.
See, subject cutoff is nothing. It is just 8 marks, 2 questions. So it is not a very big deal. So there must be 20 odd questions. You just have to solve 2 questions, right? Subject, if you just want to clear subject cutoff, I don't think that is a problem or challenge. You just figure out which, maybe 4 questions you have to solve. Figure out which you can do, whichever your forte comes into play.
Okay, sir. And with this, I would like to answer one of the question. One person is asking, can you just tell me about the easy chapters in physics and chemistry to score more marks? Sir, if you have any guidance on this, then you can just go ahead. Otherwise, you can have again look at this link and you'll get all the details, because previously we have done a session on chemistry and physics as well. So you will have a great guidance on that. Okay, so with this, I'll take up another question. Tejas has this question. Is there any shortcut tricks for mathematics?
No, not especially at advanced level. You will not find tricks which we can apply at the advanced level, though you will find, a lot of videos circulating on YouTube that trick. See, every exam has easy questions also, right? Easy questions are so easy that you don't generally require tricks to be applied in those questions anyway, right? So don't worry about tricks. I would rather recommend, toppers generally don't do that, right? People who get ranks, they don't rely on tricks at all. They rely on their basic knowledge, right? Just to illustrate on that, I have taught a student who scored All India rank 21, and he didn't know basic formula. He used to do everything by core logic. So you're competing with those guys. So compete at their level, right? Don't do something which makes you out of competition.
Okay. And so this is a common question, and I'll try to combine these several questions. Ayush, Moin, and Shubham, they have this question: what score should I target to achieve in JEE Advanced that assures me of qualification for good and older IITs?
So that would be something around 45 to 50% of the marks. So if it is 360 marks paper, let's say, supposedly, then you should target 180 marks if you want to get into old IITs.
So another question students want to ask you. They want to ask you is related to whether they should do preparation from mobile phone or from the books.
See, mobile phone, requires more focus and more determination, because there are chances that you will get distracted very easily on the mobile phone. If you can control yourself, nothing better than that. That doesn't change anything whether you study from books or mobile phone. But general tendency is we get distracted easily on mobile phone. So avoid it at this point in time if you have distraction that you're in. Study from books.
So this is again a very common question, and I'm sure that many students are, this thing is troubling them. So Bhagwan has this question: tips to manage stress and give the best in the JEE Advance.
See, I think we have already though covered this a lot of time in the earlier questions also. Uh, I think stress obviously will be there. I cannot say that we cannot be anxious of what rank we will get because we have worked hard for it. So we always will have some anxiety about the result that we might have for it. But at the end of it, I can assure you that the result is not important. As they say that destination is not important, the journey is more important, right? So the journey is the main thing which teaches you much more than the end result. And we generally try to see the end result. आपने जो जेई की पढ़ाई में सीखा है ना, वो आपको अब आगे काम आने वाला है. जेई का स्कोर कार्ड काम नहीं आने वाला है, right? So focus on the learnings that you have, and also at the same time that how you will improve on the things that you have done at this point in time, even by 1%, that will have a drastic impact in future. And whatever result you will get, whichever college you will go, target would be I will excel there. So your studies are done, your job is done. Believe me, result is something which is something called destiny also, which is not in our control. As I always keep telling my students, control the controllables. Control the controllable that you are in. Simple.
Okay. And so even I think you can see in the chat box, Pradeep has this question: any topic tips for the average student? So maybe for the mathematics, you can tell him.
यार एवरेज टॉपिक्स तो ऐसा सच नहीं है, बट हाँ आप अगर एवरेज स्टूडेंट, आई डोंट थिंक यू आर एवरेज स्टूडेंट, बिकॉज इफ यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर एडवांस यू आर नॉट एन एवरेज, बट इट्स अ मेंटेलिटी. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ये तो मेंटेलिटी हटा दो कि एवरेज स्टूडेंट कोई डेफिनेशन नहीं होती है. बट इफ यू स्टिल वांट कि यार कोई टॉपिक्स हैं सर वो बता दीजिए, तो आई वुड से सीक्वेंस सीरीज हो गए जो आप पढ़ सकते हैं, जो कि बहुत ज्यादा अलग नहीं आती है. वेक्टर एल्जेब्रा, वेक्टर 3D, दीज आर द काइंड ऑफ टॉपिक्स व्हिच आर जेई मेन से हल्का सा ही लेवल ऊपर आता है, बहुत ज्यादा ऊपर नहीं आता है. Calculus is something which if you are good at, then only you will be able to solve at JEE Advance. It is very difficult. If you are good at coordinate geometry, just do it, because वहां पर भी बहुत ज्यादा टफ नहीं, ट्रिकी क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, तो वो भी आप कर पाएंगे. तो फोकस ऑन पर्टिकुलर चैप्टर्स ऑफ एल्जेब्रा, right? You might skip probability, you might skip permutations, no problem at all. There will be hardly maximum 2 questions out of it. Skip them, don't worry. So figure out sequence series, topics which are very, for example, logarithms. JEE Advanced generally asks a question on logarithms, right? So you should be good at that also. Basic question which will eventually give you, per paper easily 24-30 marks in maths.
Okay, thank you, sir. So here's another question I can see has been asked by Jagdish, and he's asking best time for study.
Anytime when it is best for you. Whenever you study, that's the best time. There's no best time for study, but make sure that you have a biological cycle according to the paper timings. That will be the best time to study from now onwards.
Okay, considering the time we are left with, I'm sharing a poll here. I hope you all can see it, so that we could just understand whether you like this webinar or not.
Sorry.
So for your convenience, I'll tell you the question 1 says you can answer it in a yes or a no. Question 2 gives you option from 0 to 10, where 0 is being less likely and 10 is being the highest. Meanwhile, sir, we can have few more questions the student wants to ask you. And
Sure.
the first question I would like to take is share some more do's and don'ts.
Okay. Though we have been talking on the entire session, but do's is, first of all, be confident. Make sure that you start filtering questions in the, and I'm answering do's and don'ts with respect to the final day at this point in time. Make sure that you start filtering the questions. Do not stick to a question. Do not make an ego issue with the problem, right? That is something which you should avoid. Okay, I just mixing up do's and don'ts, but generally the list of don'ts is very high. So don't mix up. Don't try to force yourself in any time-bound pressure. There is enough time in the paper per question. Figure out and do not start jumping, questions from one subject to other if you're not able to solve 2-3 questions in a go. It's obvious. It's very common with most of the students. Just make sure that you stick to a subject once you have started it. Just do not hop around. But yes, you can definitely do question switching inside a particular subject. Make sure do's, if I have to talk about, always keep an eye on time. Generally, when we, let's say we are solving physics or maths, we tend to lose value of time, and we, once we see the time, it is already we have devoted 90 minutes to a particular subject. Don't do that. So make sure that after regular intervals, not all the time, but after regular intervals, do take note of the time that you have devoted to a particular subject. I think rest we guys have already covered.
Yes, sir. And here we have another question. One student is saying, while giving marks, she has analyzed that I could solve just 6 to 7 questions in each subject with accuracy. After attempting these questions, should I go ahead for solving more questions, or it would give us the negative marking? Should I focus more on accuracy?
No, absolutely. It is good. In fact, if you, let's say, even if 6 questions you are getting correct, so it is 24 into 3, that is 72 marks you are getting per subject. And if I double it, it will be something around 144, right? So 144 is a decent score. It will, at least give you a rank something around 7,000, 6,000, or 8,000 maybe. So it's going good in a good direction. So your target should be, if you can just improve overall, maybe 10 or 15 marks per paper, that will drastically give you a good chance to get into older IIT. So just focus on just solving 3 more questions, not much. I think which he or she can do.
Okay. So, sir, this question has been asked by Mitesh, and he is asking what would be the difficulty level of the JEE Advance as the IIT Bombay is preparing the paper.
Yeah, so this is a common myth. Again, then created a hype about being from YouTubers. IITs, whosoever IIT conducts the exam, right, has nothing to do with the difficulty of that paper, right? Even sometimes we do tend to feel that IIT Guwahati generally makes the tough paper. It is just a coincidence, but understand that if IIT Bombay is going to make the paper, it does not mean that IIT Bombay is making the paper. It's the organizing body, right? It makes sure that everything runs smoothly. But the questions are being compiled from throughout the professors from throughout the country. It's not that professors from IIT Bombay alone are making the paper. So there is no correlation there.
And sir, I'll take up another question. Hivan Singh has this question: what to cover or revise first, theory or PYQs in the last days?
See, I think if you are JEE Advanced real candidate, theory is already done and you must have it in your blood, right? There is nothing much to do in theory. You can revise the theory with the help of questions itself. So the questions that you have done are nothing but theory. So revise your notes that you have been taught from your teachers. That will do the job.
So, sir, considering the time, if you have any further guidance to the students, feel free to say that to the student.
My only thing is that just stay happy. You have done your job. Make sure that you are confident, because a confident person only can win the war. Underconfident person cannot go and win the war. That's simple step. So you will be confident when you will stay happy. You know that you have done your best and enjoy the last 10 days. Think the reverse way, that the jail period is getting over in 10 days. You will be enjoying after 10 odd days.
Okay, with this, sir, I'll take up last question. A student is asking, meanwhile, we are having a good time during a break time. So what kind of break should we take which will help us to enhance our knowledge simultaneously?
Break, as in, I didn't understand the break period. Which break he is talking about?
Basically, he's talking about whether he's practicing the PYQs or something like that during the last 7 days, how he should plan. If he's taking break in between his preparation,
Okay.
what he can do in a way that he can gain more knowledge, even during the break time.
Knowledge part is done. Believe me, don't push yourself to an extent where you start, feeling underconfident. This is an act which will put you in a phase where you will start feeling that I might have not done enough, right? Which will pull your confidence down. Don't do this activity. Just revise. Nothing new knowledge has to be gained at this point in time. Knowledge is over.
So perfect, sir. So today, what we understood, we actually understood several factors, but I'll just tell you a gist of it. We just talked about time management, smart study plan, and exam day strategy, how to attempt tricksters, some do's and don'ts. And
Right.
thank you so much, Anup sir, for guiding us and clearing all our doubts.
Superb. Lucky to be on the session.
Likewise, sir. And thank you to all of you for being the part of this session. With this, I'm Shilpa signing off. Till then, take care and keep checking our portal for the upcoming webinar. Thank you.
Best wishes for all the aspirants. May you get your deserved seat at IIT. God bless.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our YouTube channel.